Water guns at Florida State's practice?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles football with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Why in the world are water guns at Florida State's practice? That is the first topic of the day, and it's ironic because the video of it is associated with DJ Uiagalelei and other quarterbacks for the Seminoles throwing passes and going through basic drills, and then water guns in the background. War chant and several other videos from different people out there that you can find on X, etc., Instagram, whatever it may be. And I just want to take a moment before I delve into the more important topic, honestly, of quarterback play and a possible Florida State quarterback change. But this is a rare and unique scenario, so I just want to address this first, then we'll get on to more serious business. I have no idea why water guns were out there. And again, you fully have to watch the video to fully understand it, but it's only about 10, 15 seconds. DJ's throwing a pass. He's going back up to get another snap. It's, just reps. And there's a player in the background running across the back of the screen, a good distance behind, but you can see somebody that's a staffer for Florida State chasing him with one of those super soaker big water guns that you would think that an 8-year-old would prefer to have in his life more so than an adult. I'm all for fun at practice. I get it. But I don't know why with all the equipment that Florida State has, they don't have a better way to, shall we say, keep the players entertained and also educate them on how to properly carry the football, catch the football, run with the football, name it. With all the equipment they have and all the resources they have, they're using a water gun. I don't know what that's about. I found it kind of odd. I know some people are just completely shellacking Florida State online about it. And to be honest with you, I kind of get it. But I mean, some people just want to pile on too. So I'm not going to go into some of the posts, but here's the gist of it. What is Florida State doing with water guns when you're 0-2? That's what this stems from. From the outside looking into Florida State, I get it. They have their own way of doing things. That's their business, but it's not how I would do it. Judge how you see fit. I am not here to cast stones, but I only have a small snippet based on a couple of videos that I saw and a whole bunch of comments from people that I like to claim as keyboard warriors. So it is what it is. I think it's hilarious in its own way that people found it this big a deal. But at the same time, it is odd that with all the equipment that you have, that you would jump into the scenario of let's use water guns. And I think it was a receiver, Jakai or somebody like that, that was running away from the staffer that was trying to hit him with the super soaker. It's bizarre. I don't know what to say about it other than I'd need full context from Mike Norvell and an off the record conference. He's never going to admit, because they're getting hammered, all the things about it in a press conference. You can forget it. It ain't going to happen. Everything is perception. So there's never going to be full disclosure on that, in my opinion. Prove me wrong. But it is what it is. Now that the, in my opinion, not so serious part of this show is dealt with, because there were so many responses on this on social media, I wanted to get that out of the way. I want to talk about the big box picture of what happens this weekend if DJ Uiagalelei, A, lays an egg from the outset. Do you get Brock Glenn into the game immediately? B, would you wait till after the game? C, how did they practice? There are a gazillion things that go into quarterback play that happen during the week. Reps are everything. You're going to hear me say the word reps probably about 50 times during the rest of the show. I apologize in advance, but it is far and away the number one reason somebody does or does not play on a Saturday. So with that, here are my thoughts. As I have mentioned several times on this show last week, because they were off, and this week preparing for Memphis, While the defense needs to improve for the Noles, the offense is more important for this specific game against Memphis. Why? Because they're going up against a team that has a future NFL quarterback in Seth Hennigan. He may not play a ton. He may not play long. It's NFL stands for National Football League, but I call it the not for long. Just getting there, though, is very impressive. And this is a young man that has been a starter since his freshman year. This is a young man that is very consistent, and he's coming off a junior campaign where he threw for over 3,800 yards. If you think Florida State, even when they were playing good last year, would completely slow him down, I don't agree with that. He makes pinpoint passes where defense can't do anything about it. He will escape pressure, annoy you to death, and keep drives alive when you do everything right. And it's not like Florida State's killing it on defense right now. So if Florida State's offense isn't scoring, keeping Seth Hennigan standing next to the other players for the Memphis Tigers on the sideline, he's going to put up points. Finally, they're 2-0, and they found their running game. If you get behind Seth Hennigan in Memphis, it could be basically a repeat, a slightly different style of play from the quarterback of what happened against Boston College. Once they established they were the better team, and that happened right out the gate, they ran the ball and they didn't have to throw it. Thomas Castellanos was quote-unquote comfortable in the pocket. That's terrible, by the way, on another note. And they didn't have to take chances. Seth Hennigan, he'll throw the ball in harm's way once in a while. He'll get picked once in a while. As season proved it, he's had a little bit of a risk-taker mentality during his career, but he's calmed it down. He's a senior leader. If he's playing with a lead, he's probably not going to turn it over. And right now, Florida State desperately needs turnovers. How do you get it? You put the other team in more obvious passing situations where it's much less complex for the defense to read what's going to happen based on your personnel, formation, down and distance. It's not a rocket science adventure, but they cannot get behind. One of the ways you do it is DJ and them got to come out and really play well. Do I think that's going to happen? No. You're going to have to prove to me that it does. And that's why the rest of this stuff with quarterback is so pivotal. They got to find a way to make him feel comfortable. They got to find a way to get some explosives that they flat out scheme up. And I've talked about this the last couple of days. I hate saying that because it's more about execution most of the time. But right now, I just don't think they got the personnel to execute the way they want in their offense. You can't just change personnel in the middle of the season. The receiver corps and the tight end corps, they're not getting it done. It has been pedestrian, and that's being kind. So part of that's on DJ, the O-line, and the chemistry and all that. So maybe it'll get a little better, but they got to scheme some things up and score. But if it doesn't go right, and I think there's a pretty good chance that it will not. People are going to ask this in advance and fire away in the chat. I understand. They need to at least consider, if not this weekend, starting next week, playing one of the younger guys, most likely Brock Glenn, because he's been through the system for a year, and giving him an opportunity. I'm going to provide more depth on that, why it's so hard to make an in-season change. It is a very complex conversation. I'm not going to make it easy because there is no way to make it easy, but I'm going to go into detail on things that I have been told along with my own opinions. I'll designate both in this upcoming moment here after the break. And it's one that Florida State might have to just kind of go through and deal with. It's a long, grueling, tedious process to get a quarterback ready. And the only shortcut is there isn't one, really. It's just to play them and deal with it. So that is coming up next here on Locked On Seminoles. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Factor meals will meet your wellness goals thanks to a menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are a dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So if you're like me and you're not a guy that wants to cook all the time, this is great. And if you just need that extra time because of your kids or your job or your busy schedule, here's an opportunity for you. So no matter how busy you are, you're always going to have time to enjoy nutritious, fast tasting or great tasting meals. With over 35 different kinds of meals and more 60 add-ons that you can choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Make all your decisions easy based on the speed and all the opportunities they have to fit your budget, to fit your time restraints with Factor Meals. So head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box. 20% off next month as well. That's code LOCKEDONCollege50 at factormeals.com/LOCKEDONCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Also, make sure that you are keeping it dialed in to FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We all have something a little extra for you right now. Now through September 22nd, FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket and from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with your YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need to do is have a Google account, a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of your Sunday games on September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday this week. View your accounts page now to learn more about your boost. It's not easy to switch quarterbacks no matter when you do it. Furthermore, it's almost disastrous most of the time when you first do it. Why? Reps. I said it a little bit ago in the show, and I'll say it about another 50 the rest of the show. Brock Glenn is the most likely guy if DJ Uiagalelei is replaced. Not saying he couldn't come out and start on fire, but as a general rule, it's ironic, Seth Hennigan is one of the quarterbacks with this, most guys aren't very good until they have already thrown, you ready for this? This is something I've studied for a long time, about 400 passes in their career. That's a season. There is no shortcut. Here's the exception, and Hennigan is one of them. A few years ago when Hennigan was a freshman, there were 2 other guys that were freshmen that were really, really good. Their names, Caleb Williams and Drake May. In other words, the learning curve for football at quarterback is massive. There's just no shortcut there. If you're going to go through it, and if a lot of Florida State fans have commented in the live chats that I've had, or the live blogs and stuff like that, or all the live shows that I've had, it's great you want to talk about a new quarterback, and I do too. I honestly do. But you can't be in this situation over and over again talking about it without this other part too. Are you openly and willingly going to go through a season, let's say they change quarterbacks for next week against Cal, where the quarterback play would actually go down in the effort to get him up to speed for the next season, or at least the back half of this season? Let me repeat that. Are you openly and willingly going to accept even worse quarterback play for the rest of the season with the redshirt freshman? Because most likely that's what the data says will happen. Again, why? It's reps. Live game passing reps. There is not a shortcut unless somebody's just basically a prodigy. May and Williams obviously are special players. They are now in this thing they call the National Football League. Hennigan will be there soon. It's hard. This offense, just like any other, you need the quarterback during the week of practice, during the season, to get basically all the number 1 reps. You might give the other guy 5% or something just to give him some, but that's how it works. That's it. So how does Brock Glenn, or really anybody else, it doesn't matter, the program, could be NFL. How do you make that switch and it be seamless? It's not. That's where Mike Norvell and this program are, though. And here's a couple of points on that. Number 1, Mike Norvell decided to go after DJ Uiagalelei. Mike Norvell is the one that recruited Brock Glenn. Where are the other guys that he recruited? To be in this position, no ifs, ands, or buts, it's on Norvell and the staff. They failed. They don't have a junior or a senior that is a capable quarterback that was recruited to Florida State out of the high school ranks. Tate Rodemaker, I think he is Southern Miss or whatever. But how does that happen at Florida State? You fail at quarterback recruiting. Pick a school. I do not care the school. Pick one. Most schools eventually fail at quarterback. But to fail in back-to-back classes is a catastrophe. Florida State did. And they're paying for it now. The only option they really had was the portal. I get it. I don't disagree with that. They didn't get somebody that's working. Maybe DJ turns it around. Anything's possible. Show me. I'm a big show me guy right now. But this is on Norvell and everybody on the staff for not getting guys, because this is year 5 for Norvell. So every quarterback, every player, it's pretty much their entire roster now. Few exceptions that are 6-year seniors, and that's fine. But they put themselves in this situation. I want to clarify that. I like to give Norvell a lot of credit for things he's done at the program, but I'm also going to give criticism when it is deserved. They failed. Not maybe, not could be, not sure. Failed. 2 years in a row. Even if with all the talent, any of the schools that have been in the college football playoff, been dominant, whatever, in the last 5 to 7 years, pick one. Show me one where they failed 2 years in a row at quarterback and it ended well. Clemson's going through that stuff right now. DJ was actually a part of it, ironically. You can't win if you don't have quarterback recruiting that pans out. You got to recruit the right guy. It's got to be the right system. He's got to want it. There's a lot of stuff off the field quarterbacks have to do in addition to the studying they do at practice. I mean, the NCAA guidelines for what you're allowed to practice and what it takes to play quarterback is about night and day. They got to do it on their own. It's by far the hardest position in football to play by a mile, and this is part of it. You got to have a guy that you think is going to do that for you consistently, not just once in a while. And then finally, he's got to be likable to a certain point where your teammates will rally around him. Again, this is a complex elixir. Right now, Florida State is failing miserably at it. And I think, barring something, again, unforeseen, that while I like Brock Glenn as a prospect long-term and Luke Kromahawk even more, he's a guy I know a little better. I've seen both at Elite 11, 7-on-7 tournaments, etc. I think Kromahawk's arm's better, but he's a year younger. True freshmen should not play in the ACC, barring something being really, 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 really rare. But maybe he ends up playing too. Who knows? Florida State is going to have to go through this transition if DJ lays an egg at some point. I'm guessing it could happen sometime in the next few weeks because, and I'll use some of their quarterbacks in a second as an example. Florida State has this weekend, they got Memphis. They got Cal, who they have an elite quarterback in terms of accuracy. I saw him play live already this year. That's coming up in the next few moments. They also have a game against SMU on the road against a mobile kid. He's pretty athletic, but he's been up and down. But then they've got Clemson. Lord only knows what you're going to get with Cade Klubnik. The ironic bowl is what I'm going to call that because DJ is at Florida State now, a team he used to play against. And the guy that replaced him at Clemson, he's going to be on the other sideline. So the next few weeks, even after Memphis, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. I don't know if Florida State is ready, to be honest, to change quarterbacks, but I want people to understand just how hard this is. Again, it takes about 400 passes for guys to start understanding post-snap reads and all the things that go with it, setting protections, etc. It is not fun. This isn't my opinion. This is talking to people and just doing data. You go through games and you see the light come on for guys. And they may go through some dips. A certain team has a good scheme, but you can see the light come on. It usually takes at least a half season conservatively. And that is if you're really, really fortunate. A lot of guys as freshmen were just terrible. But you can use that at the rookie level too. Peyton Manning, he may still have the record for most interceptions. Somebody had to look it up for me. For NFL rookie, he had 28. He was garbage, but they threw him into the fire. Then the next year he flipped on the switch. Obviously, Peyton Manning's in the Hall of Fame because he's earned it. Certainly didn't start that way. So again, before I move on, or if they do make a switch, are you happy with it in condition with the following statement as well? It's okay if Florida State stinks at quarterback the rest of this year to get to where we want to go long term, meaning more than likely, no matter which quarterback you would put in, it's going to be a problem. Interceptions, missed reads, not figuring out the protection is probably the biggest problem. And that leads into the interceptions and throwing it to the wrong places. Those things are going to happen. I know Florida State fans are very fed up with how the season started, and I can tell you from covering it, it's worse for me. Trying to study this stuff, look at the stats, it's just nauseating. But that's the reality. If there's going to be a quarterback change, expect there to be a lot of disasters too. It's par for the course. Next, I'm going to give some examples of what's coming up with Florida State, some of the guys are playing against, and where experience really has a factor in it. It's a help to preview some of the games coming up. And also with SMU changing quarterbacks, they're in the middle of what Florida State might be going through. That is next on Locked On Seminoles. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn just isn't a job board. It helps you find the professionals that you can't find anywhere else that have the qualifications to fit the specific needs that you need to go through. Those aren't exactly easy to find for searching on a new job, but that's the way it might be with any perfect role. Maybe they're not actively looking, but you can contact them. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're not looking in the right place. LinkedIn has 86% of their small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LinkedIn College. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So with the game this weekend against Hennigan and the Memphis Tigers, you got a really experienced quarterback. I've talked about him ad nauseum on this show. Just want to give a brief overview for those that have missed it. He's over 3,800 yards last year. He will be a guy that gets drafted. Mostly a pocket guy. Can move, but he's mostly a pocket quarterback that can make things happen. I flat out guarantee you there will be multiple moments against Florida State, no matter how their offense is doing, no matter what their defense is doing. He's going to make plays that will absolutely agitate you. He's that good. Throwing it away, avoiding a sack, changing the protection, adjusting routes, calling a timeout when needed. It's just experience. How ironic when we're talking about the potential for Florida State to go through a quarterback change where the experience would go from a fifth-year graduate student to a redshirt freshman that barely played last season and hasn't played this year. So with that, and to help also kind of get a baseline, if you will, for some of the future opponents, I have a few things from Pro Football Focus pulled up on some of the guys that Florida State's going to go up against. Number one, it's just wild what 1 year of experience at quarterback can do. It's like a different human being behind center. And to be really honest with you, DJ U, I can pull up his stats first, and then we'll just go on, and I'll preview these. I want you to understand sometimes it just never comes on, or it's pretty much the same baseline over and over. And that's kind of my feel for DJ U. So I'm going to give you his stats first. For those of you that are on YouTube, you can see this, but I'm going to walk you through it in general anyway. Here's the deal. DJ, while a good player, is not going to get you over the top. Like, his passer rating isn't terrible by any means on Pro Football Focus for the first two games, but he didn't take a lot of chances. He didn't push the ball down the field. So his passer rating was 67 and then 72.8. I don't think it was that high. I don't know how he got 72.8. No offense to PFF, but he didn't even hit 50% of his throws against Boston College. So I'm not sure how that works, but nonetheless, he did make three big-time throws. That one that he threw to the corner ball to Kentron on the flea flicker was a tremendous throw. That was legit. And a couple others, too, that were good. But he's not making a ton of plays. Okay, fair enough. Well, what about some of the other guys, though, that Florida State has coming up on their schedule? Well, there's an interesting player that they have coming up from SMU. I thought Preston Stone was going to be the guy for that. He got replaced. Kevin Jennings, more mobile, playmaker type of quarterback, is the one in question now. So let's talk a little bit about him, because it is really unique what's going on there, because this is a guy that, quite frankly, once he played a quote-unquote, shall we say, good defense, things changed. All right. So he gets quite a bit of playing time against the Houston Cougars. Their defense is from Hungary. It is terrible. His offense, this is hilarious. Jennings' offensive grade against Houston was 87.6. Like, that is through the roof. This past week, there's a little bit of film on him, etc., and BYU is the opponent. Keep in mind, he hit 71.4% of his passes against Houston. Again, they're terrible on defense. They stink. But still, he hit 71%. You got to be a pretty good player to do that. Okay. Against BYU, remember that 87.6 offensive grade for Jennings? How about 46.5? Oof. That is dumpster fire. So he almost went in half, and his passing grade was 45. It's even lower. His passer completion rate was 46.9. He had one pick, no touchdowns, 140 yards. Look, he's just not that guy yet. And I don't think that it's necessarily his fault, but he's been thrown into the fire in the middle of the season. Here are a couple running statistics for him. He's a decent runner, not necessarily unbelievable, but he had 54 yards against Houston. He had 38 yards against BYU. He can make plays, but now he's got to understand what's in front of him. Athletically, he's very gifted, but it's also understanding the coverages. It's understanding the blitz looks, the personnel package, who's coming when to help his legs make plays. He's not ready. Is that necessarily all of Jennings' fault? No, it's just experience. And that's what Brock Glenn might be going through if he eventually replaces DJ or even just comes in a little bit of the time. It's hard. Finally, not next week, but the week, or wait a minute, next week I believe it's Cal, but Fernando Mendoza is another guy. This is a kid that I actually saw this past weekend. He played against Auburn. Cal went to Auburn. I was on the field doing photos. Knew the kid from high school. He was pretty good, but I didn't think he was going to be lights out. How about this? Fernando Mendoza, an experienced quarterback, somebody returning from last year, connected on 20 of his first 22 passes. Think experience counts? Again, Mendoza hit on 20 of his first 22. Auburn was playing the short passes because, quite honestly, Cal doesn't have, shall we say, the greatest group of receivers. They do not have all the talent in the world to run deep routes. He just picked them apart. It was Tom Brady from 15 years ago when they didn't have a lot of weapons on the outside. And he, after they had Moss, just 7-yarding you to death. It was like pinpoint precision. It was awful to watch because the game was just so slow. It was like a running game through the passing game. But if you enjoy precision passing, he's your guy. Last year, he wasn't like that. He was a solid player, but he was hitting on everything. And if it wasn't for some drops and a few really nice plays by the Auburn DBs, he'd have hit a higher percentage. So, again, this is a rather interesting scenario because if you're talking about all the players that are out there, not many are going to be more experienced than this kid, and not many are going to have his abilities under pressure. He got hit a bunch, and I do mean a bunch, and he connected. So here's what Fernando did over the last week or so. Very good player, good guy too. Big pocket passer, could move a little bit. He hit 25 of 36 against Auburn, and it should have been about 30 out of 36. 233 yards and 2 touchdowns, despite not having much at receiver. One of his better receivers was injured, didn't even play. Offensive grade, 83.9. Passer grade, 82.1. This is a very difficult scenario for Florida State when they play him next week. I got the two mixed up, SMU and Cal. It goes Cal first, and they play at SMU. But this is a guy that played last year. He went through his trials and tribulations, playing more last season. Now he's their guy. They cater the offense to him, and it's much easier for the Cal Bear offense because they know him. You have an idea of what Brock Glenn would do if you're at Florida State and on the staff, but it's not the same as, okay, we have video evidence, in-game moments, reading his body language, talking to him, and understanding what Brock is going through. This is not going to be a smooth transition. Mendoza is another guy that went through. Again, last year he was okay. He wasn't great. Probably a little better than what DJ's been this year, but he made a massive jump. So the week before against UC Davis, he hit 68%. He hit 69% against Auburn. They're going to be in for it. It's not a very easy thing to do when you're going up against a guy like that. But that's what Florida State has to do. They got to make the decision. Do they want to make the transition fairly soon or not? Because to be really honest with you, it is not an easy thing to do if you're going to be Florida State going through this, especially if they lose to Memphis. You got to have that conversation as a staff. Hey, do we just need to make this change? Because even if it is dreadful, we got to do something long-term. DJ's not here next year anyway. I understand it. It's awkward no matter what you do. There is no perfect rabbit out of the hat solution, but you got to have it. So with that, please like this podcast. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, rate and review. and share it. Comment on YouTube. I'm curious what everybody thinks about who, what, when, where, and why. How would you do practice? So much of that with the reps is important because DJ's getting all the reps in practice until Brock Glenn or Wood Krumahawk or both are getting some of those number ones. I don't see how that works, but that's something you got to think about. So with that, everybody have a great day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to see Locked On Seminoles and talking some Noles football with me. Now go check out my guy Spencer McLaughlin over there at Locked On College Football, Kenton, and all the fun people over there at Locked On ACC. That includes the crazy Miami guy too. He's all right. Make sure you check them out. Everybody have a good day. I will talk to you again tomorrow.